George Huber and Bob Grindrod at the climb of Mount Marcy in the winter of 1970. There's Mount Marcy. We got part way up, but didn't make it all the way due to the cold biting wind. My first winter mountaineering trip. I think that's Indian Falls, a lean-to on the way up to Marcy. Here's Tom Lee on our spring climb of Mount Shikarawa in New Hampshire. We had the famous bent ice axe. This is in New Hampshire. There's Tom on a rest break in a lean-to. This camera was very primitive. There's me looking out over southern New Hampshire. The Jim Liberty cabin with the chains over the roof to keep the roof on. That's where we spent the night after going up over the rocky summit of Mount Shikarawa. Schwangunks. Video of climbing trips to the Schwangunks. More scenery. Somehow I didn't seem to take as much pictures of people as I ought to have. I'm not sure if that's me or if that may be Chris Fagan. There's Tom Lee's rear end. I believe that may be the Brat, a view from my freshman dormitory. This movie camera had a iris over the lens that you turn by hand with try to match up symbols for clouds or sun, or that's why the exposures are so poor. The dumpsters behind the dining hall was my view. Schwangunks again, sleeping under tarps. I believe that was Anna. That might be Ron Dingman. I believe that's Tom and Chuck Nelson. There's Anna. Easy Keyhole, maybe? Anna didn't like her picture taken. I believe Ron Dingman next to her, Chuck. This is undoubtedly Boston by the Uberfall. I think that's Ron climbing and maybe Chuck belaying. More Schwangunk scenes. Looks like Tom, maybe Ron, Anna again up on top of a climb. I believe this was a little bit of practice behind the campsite. This was a Red Cross canoeing course on a lake in Syracuse. Carol would know the name. Roxy and Anna on a walk to some park from campus. It seems to have been somewhat of an embarrassing walk. Tom just got a brand new rope. I probably did too. I remember we waited for ages for those things to come by mail from Washington. I think it was Mountain Safety Research. This is the famous, very wet backpack that was aborted because of rain. This is me climbing at the Gunks. There's, of course, Chris Fagan and the famous moves he was famous for. I guess I like to have big cracks. Here comes Chris. We had homemade climbing harnesses made from seatbelt webbing and big rings that we got from a climbing supply store. I believe that's me belaying Chris across a traverse. No, that's Rick Wilgoose, I believe. I don't know who's filming, maybe Fred. Yeah, there was a scary traverse on this climb. And Rick went off on the next pitch. There's Rick horsing around at the campsite. As I believe his lovely assistant Barb Rumrill. Here's the start of the trip to the Pemigewasset Wilderness of New Hampshire. Roxy and Carol, I believe, hitchhiked and took a bus over to Boston area. Tom drove up from Long Island. Picked me up in Massachusetts when we went up to New Hampshire for a multi-day trip into the Pemigewasset Wilderness. Up over Bond Cliffs and There's Tom striking the tent. He's viciously striking the tent. There's Carol, our trail, Roxy, and myself. This film was converted to videotape. There's Tom with his canteen. It sat on videotape for many years till it was converted to digital, and there's been a lot of loss of resolution. Oh, taking a swim after most of the hiking is done. Heading out to get to the car. We drove back to the camp on southern Maine, where they dropped me off. Here we are at the camp. Tom unpacking stuff from his car. We're packing stuff in. My grandfather hamming it up.